There are too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there are far too many of us dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Father, Father, there's no need to escalate. War is not the answer, but only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. We got picket line and picket sign. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so we can see what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? I want to know what's going on. Everybody thinks we're wrong. And who are they to judge us? Simply because our hair is long. You know we've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. We got picket line and picket sign. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so we can see what's going on. What's going on? 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 It's been going on, still going on. What's going on? 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 No matter what is going on. All the power, all the power, all the
SFJAZZ Collective. SFJAZZ Collective, what a beautiful way to start. Anyways, good evening, everybody. My name's Randall Kline. I'm the artistic director and founder here at SFJAZZ. Yeah. And that was the home team there, the SFJAZZ Collective, playing Etienne Charles's arrangement of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. Yeah, beautiful. The collective was joined by another trumpet player there. That was Skylar Tang, our 16-year-old trumpeter from our other all-star band, the high school all-star band. So, Anyways, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to welcome all of you to this 40th anniversary edition of the National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Masters celebration. This is the third consecutive year that we've partnered with the NEA to present this program, which honors some of the greatest jazz musicians of our time. Because of the pandemic, the past two celebrations were virtual affairs, produced remotely and streamed online to a worldwide audience. And they were fabulous events, but tonight's a whole different ballgame. We got people, we got... Finally, we're getting to do this live here at the SFJAZZ Center in front of an actual audience, as well as in front of the audience that is tuning in from around the country and around the world, including in Ukraine and in countries where Ukrainians are taking much needed refuge. Our hearts are with them all. I'd like to, yes. We'd like to say that this concert hall is a sacred place where audiences can be transported by the high priests and priestesses of jazz, like the musicians we're honoring tonight, the 2022 class of National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Masters. Yes. I'd also like to recognize that SFJAZZ wouldn't be here without the National Endowment for the Arts. Decades ago, when SFJAZZ was trying to make its mark, the NEA guided us through many phases of crucial planning. We kind of knew what we wanted to become, and they showed us how to get there. And here we are today. This is our 39th season as an organization. We owe the NEA a lot, which is just one of the many reasons why I am truly honored to introduce the new chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson. Please welcome her.
Thank you so much, Randall. I'm delighted to be here to add my welcome to the audience in this hall and to the audience tuning in on radio and online. We're so pleased to have you join us to celebrate the 2022 NEA Jazz Masters Fellowship recipients. This is our nation's highest honor in jazz. Tonight's performance also kicks off Jazz Appreciation Month, the worldwide celebration of jazz that takes place each April. I started my charge as chair of the NEA just a few weeks ago and am thrilled that the NEA Jazz Masters concert is one of my first experiences in this new role. With the NEA Jazz Masters as one of its signature programs, I'm excited to build on the endowment's strong work and to prioritize inclusivity, collaboration, and the recognition that art, culture, and creativity are core to every American reaching their full potential. As a child, my father introduced me to the sounds and importance of jazz and jazz musicians. And he did this as a way of connecting me to his roots and my roots, African-American roots and culture. He wanted to make sure that my brother and me knew that we had connection to people who were capable of the highest expression of humanity, people who invented an art form that became a global treasure, an art form that unites, inspires, and invites into its creativity the spirit of people from all backgrounds. This is an art form that has endured across generations because of dedicated and gifted stewards, and some of these are the stewards that we are celebrating today. Since 1982, the NEA has awarded 165 NEA Jazz Masters fellowships, each year honoring the remarkable accomplishments of a diverse and talented group of jazz greats. And tonight, we carry on that tradition with our 40th anniversary class. In addition to our support of the Jazz Masters, the NEA has a 50-year track record of support for the whole field of jazz by providing funding for a wide range of projects, including concerts, festivals, tours, and jazz education initiatives. We're pleased to celebrate tonight with our wonderful partners at SFJAZZ. Many thanks to Randall, Kline, and his stellar team. And I'd also like to thank an NEA colleague who, together with her team, worked tirelessly on this program, but couldn't be with us tonight. And that's Ann Meyer Baker, our Director of Music and Opera. I know she's tuning in, and Ann, we send you love. My congratulations to our extraordinary honorees, and thanks again to all who made this evening possible. And now, let's enjoy tonight's tribute concert.
And now, please welcome our host for this evening, a dear, dear friend of SFJAZZ who's performed on this stage many times, and the 2018 NEA Jazz Master, Diane Reeves. She once said from this stage, one of the first times she's performed here, that this wasn't a stage, this was a playground. And so welcome her to her playground, please, Diane Reeves.
Good evening, everybody. I am deeply honored to host tonight's festivities. As Chair Jackson said, this evening begins a year-long celebration for the 40th anniversary of the National Endowment for the Arts for Jazz Master Fellowship. It's an important tradition, something like conferring a knighthood, as we publicly bestow the title Jazz Master on some of the greatest practitioners of this American-born art form. And I can tell you from my own experience that it feels warm and personal to the honorees. I just love that we get to recognize all the beauty that these artists have created and given to us. Please, let's stand and give it up for tonight's honorees, Donald Harrison Jr., Billy Hart, Stanley Clarke, and Cassandra Wilson. Yes. Woo! Congratulations to these 4 wonderful jazz ambassadors. You know, I love the fact that this is happening in this concert hall at SFJAZZ. There's love and respect for the music. This place was created for jazz. I performed on this stage many times, and there's a tingle that happens here. A beautiful, intimate relationship emerges between the musicians because they can hear everything, every note, every whisper. And the way this place is constructed, it allows you, the audience, whether you're with us in person or joining us online, to be privy to this intimacy. When I sing here, I feel you feeling it. It's like a heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul experience, and it makes my heart smile.
So
Don't you know that I all smiles, darling? You'd be too if you knew, darling, all of my smiles were for you. I'm all chills, darling, through and through. But my cold hands, darling, warm to the touch of you. Rain hasn't fallen for days now, and rainbows keep filling my skies. My heart must have painted those rainbows shining before my eyes. Don't you know that I'm in love, darling, deep and true, with guess who, darling, someone to live for, beg, steal, and die for, eat humble pie for, fly to the sun and the moon and the sky for, someone to laugh with, dance with, and cry for, and not someone is you. I'm all smiles, darling. Me too. If you knew, darling, all of my smiles were for you. I'm all cheers, darling. You'd be too. But my cold hands, darling, warm to the touch of you. Rain hasn't fallen for days now, and rainbows keep filling my skies. My heart must have painted those rainbows shining before my eyes. Don't you know that I'm in love, darling, deep and true, Thank you so much. Now let me give you, oh, I don't have on my glasses. I knew something was wrong. You know? Okay. Now let me give you a little background about what we're doing tonight. The NEA Jazz Masters Fellowship began in 1982 when the National Endowment of the Arts saw fit to honor the purveyors of this important American art form. The first class included 3 musicians of great renown in the music. Sun Ra, the futuristic big band leader, and trumpeters Roy Eldridge and Dizzy Gillespie. Over the years, scores of other performers and jazz advocates have been honored. Jimmy Smith, Sarah Vaughan, Betty Carter, Art Blakey, Miles Davis, on and on and on and on. The history books get written and the musicians tell the stories from generation to generation, and they become architects and icons. But they were people, hardworking musicians who were taught by other musicians, because jazz arises from a culture of community, and we know each other. Just as an example, back in the 90s, I had the privilege of singing with the great Dizzy Gillespie. Another NEA Jazz Master guitarist, Kenny Burrell, used to call me cousin because my mother and her siblings grew up with him in the same block in Detroit, and my family's last name is Burrell. So who knows, you know? So there is a continuum, and our first honoree, saxophonist and band leader, Donald Harrison Jr., embodies it. He is from New Orleans, the birthplace of jazz, and over the course of his career, he has spent years honing his artistic prowess alongside other NEA Jazz Masters like drummer Art Blakey, pianist Eddie Palmieri, and drummer Roy Haynes, who called Donald Harrison Jr. my bebop brother. In addition to Donald's great musicianship, he's receiving this award in honor of his dedication to preserving the music and culture of New Orleans. His crucial work helps to ensure that its important legacy will survive. Every year, the NEA presents the A.B. Spellman NEA Jazz Masters Fellowship for Jazz Advocacy to an individual who has made major contributions to the appreciation, knowledge, advancement of the American jazz art form. Donald is this year's recipient. Following the devastation of Hurricane Katrina in 2005, he increased his activism, creating employment opportunities in his own band for young musicians who had remained in the city when others had left. He has also mentored now world-renowned jazz artists from New Orleans and beyond, including John Baptiste, Christian Scott Atunde Adjua, yes, Trombone Shorty, and Esperanza Spalding. Donald keeps the fire of the music and the jazz tradition alive and thriving. Let's watch this video about Donald Harrison Jr.
New Orleans is a great city. Growing up here, being part of the culture, and listening to the music, in my opinion, gives you a different idea of what music is. Because music is part of everyday life here. My father, of course, was part of the culture. He brought me around the old timers that were connected to antiquity. And I didn't realize what that meant until I started playing music. When I was in high school, I read a statement by Charlie Parker where he said, "If you don't live it, it won't come out of your horn." And I said to myself, you come from New Orleans, so you can get the whole history of music inside of you, like Charlie Parker said. It all comes from my father taking me to second lines, seeing that music is connected to life. it's a culture, then also being part of tribal culture that keeps alive the things that were happening in Congo Square that influenced jazz music.
I'm gonna make the kind of fair. I'm the big chief of the Congo Square Nation.
Congo Square is a place in New Orleans where Africans were allowed to play their drums and sing and dance according to their affiliations in Africa. So if you were Yoruba, you could gather with people who were from Nigeria and other areas and participate in the culture you did in Africa. That became coalesced into a New Orleans sound, but it still has African roots in it, and you still can hear that music today. That's the reason I have the Congo Square Nation Afro-New Orleans group. I wanted people to focus on that aspect of New Orleans music and pay homage to these people who were in Congo Square, who found a way to transcend everything that they were going to and come up with a beautiful tradition that influenced the world. I joined the Jazz Messengers and stayed for 6 years. It was one of the great experiences of my lifetime. It was his extreme plan to nurture the next generation, and I picked up on that. I remember saying to myself, if I could just do some of what Art Blakey did, I would be really happy. So then I started teaching them, and they started getting scholarships, and they started landing good gigs out of high school. So it was working. I found out that they were believing in my idea that you should learn all types of music, then take it where you want to take it. It was opening up ideas and spreading the gospel. I was doing the work of a jazz messenger in another realm. I just kept going with it because every year there were more shiny, bright faces that believed in what they saw in the other students, that success breeds success.
And now it's time for some live music. Friends, here's Donald Harrison Jr. performing with his quartet, which includes pianist Dan Kaufman, Naraoka, and drummer Joe Dyson. Enjoy. Congratulations, Donald. It is my great honor to present you with this 2022 A.B. Spellman Jazz Masters Fellowship Award. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, and my heart is so warm. I don't even know how to take it. I'm just barely standing up here. I'd just like to say that it is with a jubilant spirit that I accept the 2022 NEA Jazz Masters Award. It is a wonderful... It is a wonderful thing to join the illustrious list of great jazz musicians who have come before me, and the present class, who are all people I look up to and admire and learn from. I'd like to thank the National Endowment for the Arts, and I'd like to thank my parents, all the musicians I've played with over the years, my wife and daughter, my family who've mentored me to become what I am today, and all the young musicians that I come in contact with, where I feel like we learn from each other. They teach me what they do, and I teach them what I do, as well as the lessons I've learned from the past. So once again, thank you for this award, and thanks to A.B. Spellman, for whom my particular Jazz Master Award is named. For your great leadership in the community, and all of us, I accept this on behalf of all the people who love the music. That means you and us. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love our next honoree, drummer Billy Hart. He is a sweet, incredible man who plays with lyricism and fire, and he always leads with the most incredible smile. It speaks to who he is as a person and an artist. Billy is also a teacher and a scholar, and I'm not kidding. He knows everything about the art of percussion and rhythm from around the world. He has encouraged me and so many other musicians, and he's performed with just about everybody on this NEA Jazz Masters list you can think of, like Miles Davis, Jimmy Smith, Shirley Horn, Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, Charles Lloyd, Stan Getz, Pharoah Sanders, and it just keeps going on. Back in the 70s, he and Stanley Clarke were members of Pharoah Sanders' band at the same time. They also played together in Stan Getz' quartet. And to this day, Billy and Donald Harrison Jr. play together in the Cookers, the all-star hard bop septet that is one of the great working jazz ensembles of our time. You get the idea. Billy Hart plays with everybody, with heart, and everybody wants to play with Billy Hart. Let's watch this video about Billy Hart.
My grandmother lived across the hall from the #1 jazz saxophonist of Washington, D.C., except she didn't know it and I didn't know it. And this guy whose nickname was Buck, Roger Hill, now is Buck Hill, he saw me with my practice sticks in my back pocket. And he said, "So you're a drummer, huh?" And I said, "Yes." I don't even know why I said yes, because I wasn't that good. So he gave me 2 of his 78 records. I couldn't stop listening to them. Fell in love with those records. I never thought about taking lessons or anything. I just played with the records. And one record had Max Roach on it, and the other one had Buddy Rich. And then, of course, it wasn't long before I wanted to sit in. I wanted to play. First thing to do was to go back and practice. You try to learn how to do what those guys were doing. So that became destiny. It became my journey, my path. Washington, D.C. is, between the North and the South. Rock and roll stars would come up to Washington, D.C. to perform, but they couldn't afford to bring their rhythm sections. So I got hired to play with a lot of those guys. I developed a certain amount of professionalism doing that. I hadn't even gone to college yet, and I was already beginning to play with people. Shirley Horn was almost the mentor for me. Playing with her, for me, was like playing with Oscar Peterson or Ahmed Jamal. But she played that well. Miles Davis is the great teacher. He would just say things to you. We were walking down the hall one day, and he just said, start everything on 4 and don't finish nothing. Yes, sir. It just has so much to do with forming the musical language. Be able to play music and the audience can see or feel or hear lyrics. And then finally, maybe our next stage is you can see how, besides being entertaining, that you can produce a sort of satisfaction for the audience. Because along with all this stuff becomes a philosophy, and you begin to look at not only music that way, but life that way. You can see how life can be satisfying.
Now, here is Jabali Billy Hart performing with his superb quartet, which has been together for over 2 decades. It includes pianist Ethan Iverson, saxophonist Mark Turner, and bassist Joe Martin. Billy Hart, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and joy to present you with this award this evening. You are so deserving, and thank you for everything that you continue to do for all of us with this big old heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
John Coltrane said that he wanted his music to be a force for good. Coltrane's comment has inspired my own path of purpose. This path started many years ago in Washington, D.C., before sending me on to play with so many friends, heroes, mentors, and students. Getting this recognition tonight from my government apparently validates this path. This path of purpose. Thanks to the National Endowment of the Arts, of SFJAZZ, and everyone else who has helped me all these years. That means you. I'm happy to have walked this path. Thank you all so very, very, very much.
So much heart. We made a deal backstage that we're going to record together, so. Oh, Cassandra Wilson. One of the great singers and band leaders of our time. Her voice is like no other. She comes from Jackson, Mississippi, and you hear her roots in the blues in everything she does, whether she's singing a standard like Polka Dots and Moonbeams or Bob Dylan's Lay, Lady, Lay. I met Cassandra in the mid-'80s when I first moved to New York. Drummer Terry Lynn Carrington, who was honored by the NEA in 2021, put us together on a gig and we just clicked. Later on, we got together and we were label mates at Blue Note, and so we did this all Beatles record and we sang Come Together, and it was a blast. The Beatles should have heard it. Now, I'm a singer, and I've always marveled at what Cassandra does. Her voice is unapologetically rich. Some people call it smoky, but I call it the depths of soul. The quality alone, along with her interpretive genius, explains why so many incredible musicians have sought her out to work with. Cassandra has recorded with Wynton Marsalis, who had her sing on his Pulitzer Prize-winning oratorio, Blood on the Fields. Wynton, of course, received an NEA Jazz Masters award. By contrast, Cassandra has also collaborated with Henry Threadgill, the multi-reedist and composer whose brilliant work lies well outside the mainstream. He too went on to win a Pulitzer Prize and to become an NEA Jazz Master. The point is this: Cassandra can sing with anyone. You cannot put her in a box. They don't have a box that's ever been made that you can go in. She is always herself. Let's watch this video in which she explains more about her life and musical perspective.
I was born in Jackson, Mississippi. It's a town that's known for many things. In the past, it's been a great gathering place for musicians. Both of my parents were musical, but my father was actually a musician. He had a huge jazz collection, and that's what I remember listening to when I was a little girl. I started listening to the same music that he listened to. I think the singing thing was always there, but I never really thought that I had a voice. I started performing publicly when I was in college. It felt easy. It felt good. I moved to New Orleans because I married a man who worked in New Orleans, and I got a job at WDSU TV, and I did the things that a wife was supposed to do. While I was working during the day, I worked at, 10 to 5. And then at night, I would go out and I would meet these amazing musicians in New Orleans. There's this feeling that there's something else beyond the kitchen and ironing the clothes. Maybe I actually fit with the jazz musicians. Where was it? The music scene in New York was exciting. I met Steve Coleman in 1982, I believe. He was the one who introduced me to his ideas at the time, which were creating an entirely new language in the music. The muse comes to you through pianos, guitars, drums, sticks, stones, trees. I believe when it comes to you initially, all you have to do is massage it, trusting my intuition enough and trusting my ears enough to know, okay, this is good. I like it. It feels good. It makes me feel good. So I know that when I sing it, it's gonna make other people feel good as well. It's always been about capturing tones. Wherever he may be, he can search. It's never been a part of my toolbox to sing loudly. I'm not a loud singer. I love nuance, and I love digging inside of a lyric and turning it and twisting it so that it has a certain effect on the listener and also an effect on me. Everything is connected with the blues. If it's American music, it's connected with the blues. I've had younger musicians that I work with in my band. The most important thing that I try to share with them is be yourself. That's what we're taught in jazz. Each individual has their own path. They have their own relationship with their creator. Develop that, and everything else falls into place.
Cassandra is unable to be with us here tonight physically, but she is here in spirit. Can't you feel her? Oh, I can feel her too. Here to pay tribute is guitarist Brandon Ross, one of Cassandra's favorite collaborators, joined by Gretchen, Parlato, and Simon Brewer, and Kendrick Scott from the SFJAZZ Collective. Love you, Cassandra.
watched your timeless spirit fly, soaring above the ceiling into the midnight winter sky. Then you walk on. I searched a million years all through the night. Love had disappeared, but when I woke up in the morning, you were breathing there right by my side. I found another country in your eyes. The midday sun is beating quarter time on our parade. We drove past city limits, engines blazing all the way. A warm embrace became consuming fire. Our bodies burned, melted with desire. And when we woke up in the morning, we were breathing. We'll never die. I've seen so many countries in your eyes.
That was absolutely beautiful. And now I give you our new 2022 NEA Jazz Master, Cassandra Wilson, who recorded her remarks from her home in Jackson, Mississippi.
I want to thank everyone in my life, everyone that has been a part of my journey in making music. Thank you to the National Endowment for the Arts. I'm deeply honored, grateful, humbled to be the recipient of the 2022 Jazz Masters Fellowship. I'd like to congratulate the other recipients, Billy Hart, Stanley Clarke, and of course, Big Chief Donald Harrison. Music is my life's work, and it is something that I love from the bottom of my heart. I love the music community, and I feel blessed to be able to be a part of it and be a part of the movement of jazz, always and forever.
Absolutely. It's time to acknowledge our final honoree, Stanley Clarke. When bassist Stanley Clarke moved to Philadelphia, move from Philadelphia to New York as a young man, he was a phenom. He was barely 20 years old and already playing with jazz masters like Art Blakey, Pharoah Sanders, and Dexter Gordon. Pretty soon, he and Chick Corea launched Return to Forever, one of the most iconic groups in jazz history. Look up his discography, it's endless. And it isn't limited by genre. Stanley has recorded with Sonny Rollins, Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, Aretha Franklin, Donna Summer, Paul McCartney, Carlos Santana. He's even done a record with Eddie Murphy. And he's on 2 of my records. I met Stanley through my cousin, the great George Duke. George and Stanley were great friends. It was the 1970s, and I remember I was in high school, and I remember Stanley's album, Vulcan Princess, and the song, Yesterday's Princess. I thought that was just like, ooh, wow, and he was singing too, shoot. What I love about Stanley's bass playing, whether it's acoustic or electric, is that it's bold. He will explore. He will take his bass and make it sound like a guitar if it needs to. It's a strong voice that can sing, swing, it can funk, it can rock. He can make his bass do anything he wants it to do, and his bass fronts the band. Let's learn more about Stanley Clarke in this video tribute.
My mother was the artist type. I remember at a very young age singing around the house, singing stuff that I didn't hear in church. Just an extremely creative woman. Let's hear a little bit of that. Out of the 3 of us kids, she chose me to be the one that would go take music lessons. And I started taking music lessons at a very young age. When I got to high school, there were no high schools for the performing arts. My goal, I wanted to play bass in the Philadelphia Orchestra. I wanted to be one of the first African Americans in the Philadelphia Orchestra, so I was studying classical music. Mr. Jamo was a really important person to me. When we were in high school, at one point, he said, you know, have you ever heard much jazz music? And so I got turned on to Charlie Mingus, Stan Getz, and then later, everyone else. And I really thank him for that. I was in a band with Bayard Lancaster. He was an avant-garde saxophone player. Bayard was a little crazy. He says, listen, you want to do a gig at a world-famous jazz club? I said, oh yeah. So we go play the Showboat. He put sunglasses on me. I had this suit, and my drummer, the drummer was even younger, and he put these big, wide sunglasses on that he had gotten in Paris and kind of covered the guy's face, and we went in. That was my first experience playing in a jazz club. I loved it. I loved it. I started out in New York playing with Horace Silver, then I played with Art Blakey and a few others, and then eventually Stan Getz, and then eventually I played with Joe Henderson. And we were playing a gig in Philadelphia, and our piano player couldn't make it a particular week. So Joe said, I'm bringing this guy down from New York, and his name is Chick Corea. And so he came down, and it was one of those bonds musically that happened. We really bonded musically. It was almost supernatural in many ways. And we eventually connected up and started playing together with the group. Chick and myself had a pretty healthy classical music appetite, so our records had compositions. That's kind of what distinguished Return to Forever. When I try to explain that period to people, I have to be very specific. Yes, we grew up and we listened to Coltrane and we listened to Miles, but we also listened to Jimi Hendrix. We were putting everything out there. The idea of playing different types of music, a lot of it for me had to do with friendship. I've never really defined myself within a genre of music. I play bass. I play the bass.
And indeed you do. We are so lucky tonight we get to hear Stanley Clarke play his bass. His band includes pianist Ruslan Sirota, percussionist Salar Nader, who plays tablas, and drummer Jeremiah Collier.
nagde tergen tarana da tunna ka te
I am so honored, and you are truly welcome. Thank you so much, for everything.
Thank you, Diane. Wow. This is beautiful. Ooh, nice. Oh. Well, I want to thank you, everyone, for this award. I'm really humbled by this. I've worked all my life in music, and it's very nice every now and then when you get acknowledged for what you're doing. Everybody knows that, you know. It's a unique art form that we've created here, and it's nice to be acknowledged. Anyway, now I would like to touch on a subject that's really important to me and really close to my heart. And that's, if you're a person such as myself that's had a degree of success, and I think it's our duty to find that special person, perhaps a child, someone that has a tremendous, tremendous talent at their age, and help that person, you know, right? Right? Yeah. I was very fortunate when I was young that I played with some of the individuals that are not only taught me a lot about music, but actually helped me as a person and gave me certain understandings that I didn't have. I mean, one of those guys is here tonight, Billy Hart. Where's Billy? I don't know, where's it? You know, it's funny, me and Billy were backstage and we were reminiscing about a club that we used to play in called Slugs. In New York, and when you went in that place at Slugs in New York, I mean, you know what a slug is, right? So, you know, what was beautiful about that club was that it had all the different, like, levels. It had, like, drug dealers, pimps, it had professors, educated people, lowlifes, sea urchins, everything. Everything was in there, you know. New York was a great thing for me. When I first came to New York, I played with Horace Silver. Yeah, and Horace, he was the most organized musician that I'd ever met. I mean, I never forget when he gave me some of his music, and I looked at his handwriting. Back in those days, we didn't have, like, you know, software and all that kind of stuff, you know. So, I mean, his handwriting was like, it looked like something that came out of a computer today. It was just beautiful. He used to have it laid out on the table, and you'd come in there. You know, I learned so much from Horace about having a band. He never really made anyone feel bad, except this one time he said to me, he had this song, and the song was called Nutville. And it had this bass line, it went do-do-dee-doo-doo-dee-doo-doo. And I was a young afro, bigger than anybody's, you know, I was out of Philadelphia, you know, I was not messing around, you know, and he said to me on a Tuesday, he said, if you don't have this part together by Thursday, you will be in Philly on Friday. So Horace Silver, Art Blakey, Stan Getz, Joe Henderson, each one of these individuals really gave me a lot of insight, and I thank them dearly. And so again, if you come across someone that's really special, please reach out to them and give them a hand. It's really important because our music, jazz music, the reason why it succeeds and keeps moving, it has this trajectory that goes through time, is because it's a very African thing. We pass it down. So you can help too. If you love jazz, pass it down. Okay? So again, I want to thank the National Endowment for the Arts for this award. This is a tremendous acknowledgement for me, as well as all the other musicians that have been acknowledged here in previous years and tonight. And so all I can say is the best is yet to come. Thank you.
That was pure fire. We just heard 3 of our new NEA Jazz Masters playing Take the Coal Train by Duke Ellington. We're closing with one more for you guys tonight. Our NEA Jazz Masters plus the SFJAZZ Collective joined by tonight's guests. They'll perform St. James Infirmary Blues, a tune made famous by the great Louis Armstrong and performed down through the years through countless of musicians. It connects us to a lineage, to the continuum we spoke about earlier tonight in the show. It connects us to this great and irresistible tradition of jazz. St. James Infirmary. honored to have been your host for tonight. Thanks to the National Endowment of the Arts and SFJAZZ for inviting me, and congratulations to the 40th anniversary class of the NEA Jazz Masters. Keep listening, everybody. Good night.